from TGB Supplements, and I'm just going to give you his backstory because he's a very interesting backstory. Speaking of back, I guess we just killed fucking back after I deadlifted, but I have read your story online, but you actually told me that's the PG-13 story. As you know, we don't keep it PG-13 on Russo's channel, so I just wanted to go into your background, and as always, you carry Enhanced Athletes products, right?
Yes.
So if they're sold out on Enhanced Athletes website, you can always check out tgbsupplements.com.
Yeah, you have to email us though, because they're not on the site itself, just in store. But if you email us, we can take care of it.
So I'll put all their stuff in a comment and description below. So give me your story.
Yeah. Well, I started out about 6 years ago. It's kind of a long story. I don't want to get too far and off track, but pretty much just to start off, I've worked my whole life. I had very little money growing up, and I was always a hard worker, and was one of those guys that was just trying to survive pretty much. I moved out on my own at 17, started to provide for myself. I was working full time. I worked for a chip company, believe it or not, driving a truck delivering potato chips. But, I tried to go to college out of school, but in high school I worked so much that when I applied for financial aid, they denied me because I made too much money. And, my mom, she was bipolar, made zero money at all, so I thought I would have some type of financial aid.
Right. And
I had good grades in school, even though, I partied and stuff like that. But I always figured if you're going to do something, do it to the fullest. So even though I hated school, I was there, so I always did my best. So I actually got in for pharmacy, believe it or not, and it was 6 years. There was no way I was going to be able to afford it. So I ended up going to like a little community type school for a semester, and I didn't even remember what it was for at the time. I went for like maybe a week, and I realized like there's no way I'm going to be able to afford my room and board plus tuition, and have to work full time because I was working 40 plus hours in high school. So I immediately said, this isn't for me, and I went straight to work. Luckily, I got in with a chip company full-time, which for around here was a pretty good job. It was starting out probably like $30,000, but within 2 years, I'd move up to like $40,000, $50,000. And so I worked my way up. I was the youngest guy in the company at the time, got in full-time, and I had a tragic event happen. My girlfriend at the time was pregnant, and my son passed away at 8 months along in the pregnancy. He had a prolapsed cord, which means cut off all his blood, and he just from totally healthy to being gone overnight, and it changed everything. Like I said, I kind of had a hard upbringing and had always worked hard, and because of that, I almost had like a little negativity to me, just because there's people that I grew up with that had lots of money. I had like cars and stuff handed to them where I worked for everything. And when I got out on my own, it was nice, but it was hard. You grew up fast. So
you were grinding from day one.
Exactly. And so when he passed away, everything changed. I was probably about 5 years into working full time, so I'm like 22, 23. And when he passed, I took time off of work, which they gave me a hard time about, believe it or not. Like they wanted to give me like a week. But mentally, I was like in a whole nother place, and I ended up resorting back to painkillers to help kill the pain emotionally. When I was younger, I dabbled with drugs, like I had said, but never really got addicted like to one specific thing back then. But at that time, I was going through so much emotionally, I didn't know how to deal with it, and it was there, and I just started taking them, and I, like I was telling you earlier. Like at least I did. I knew when I was going too far. Like when I was like, I know I'm pushing.
Like you're going down the road.
I know that I'm going to be addicted. Yeah, because I was taking them every day, and I just didn't care. You know what I mean? I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I didn't even know if I wanted to be around, and so I was just trying to make it through the day, and they helped me do that. But at the same time, you don't deal with that emotional pain, so eventually you have to face it.
Right.
So
just prolonging it.
It prolongs it, and you end up paying for it, and it hits you even harder when you do deal with it. So, this, like I said, I had quit my job out of nowhere because they tried to force me back to work. They screwed me when I come back. I had like a 16-hour day ahead of me. It was a tough job. In the wintertime, like my truck would freeze on the inside. It was cold. It was probably 10 degrees on the day that I came back. And I remember I was so cold, my truck was empty, and I had to load it before I went out, so I had to do inventory and all this stuff. And like I said, it was at least a 16-hour day ahead of me. I tried to call my boss over the weekend, tell him I wasn't ready to come back, I wasn't in the right mind, and he ignored my calls. So it's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm in there like loading my truck, and he walks by and doesn't say nothing to me. And I just went blank, man. It was like I had an epiphany. Like, I literally just went blank, and I just felt like, I don't know, it was like I went out of my body almost. And I thought to myself, there's no way I can do this for another 20 years. It's just not possible. I just can't. I'd rather lose everything I have than do this. So I was standing there for like 15 minutes, I think, because I almost got frostbite. I went in his office. I threw him the keys. I said, have fun. I said, I'm done. Don't call me. I'm never coming back. And that was it. I just left. And I just bought a house, because when I found out my son was coming, I moved out of an apartment into the house. And it was a crazy story there, too. They told me I needed 10% down, which I had. Well, a week before closing, they said, you need 20%. Well, at the time, I was expecting my son to be born, so I'm like, well, whatever I got to do, I'm going to make this happen. And, of course, my phone go off. I'm going to make it happen. And so I did. Well, I sold my bike. I sold a couple other things. I had a street bike at the time. And, did whatever I had to do to make it happen. So then I quit my job right after I moved into this house, and I'm thinking, like, at the time, I didn't care. I was in a whole nother place after my son. And I had a couple $1,000s saved, because I had to spend almost everything I had to get the down payment. And I probably had like $3,000 or $4,000 left. I started just helping people online for free. And actually, the site owner took notice and asked me to moderate on the site. So I started moderating. I loved what I was doing, because I was helping people, doing what I loved. That was the one positive thing I always had. Like, when all my friends were really getting involved in drugs, yeah, I was doing it too, but I had something positive that I didn't want to throw away, because I had started training it since 12 years old. It was like the one thing that I always had, that I worked so hard for and I was good at. So when I started helping people online, I was like really getting into it. I'd have like 30, 40 emails a day. I started working with a couple pro fighters, and it was going well. But I wasn't making no money, so, right. And time's ticking by. So I messaged the owner and I said, how did you get involved? I'm really trying to find something in this industry, even if just to survive, I don't care what it is, as long as it's what I love, I'd be happy. He goes, well, I started with a supplement store. He said, but it wasn't the right move. I really didn't make a lot of money. It's a ton of work. He said, but if you want to do it, you can look into different distributors and so on. So I was like, okay. So that's what I did. And that night I stayed up all night looking at distributors and trying to learn how to set up my own business. And I did it myself. Like, I set up my whole business myself that night, and I didn't even know how much this was going to cost. The next day I contacted the biggest distributor in the industry, and luckily the guy that they gave me for a rep was really cool. He's like one of them guys. He's like a hustler, man. If he sees that you want it, he'll be there to help you. So he helped me, and he pointed me in the right direction to get my website built, and I had just enough money to build my website. It took everything I had except $400, and I had $400 in product. That was it. No savings.
So $400 in his bank account.
That's it, man.
That's what you started with.
That's what I started with. $400 cash in my bank, and I had $400 worth of product. And I have a picture of it, actually. I could show you, later on. But it's insane when you look at it. And I was down to rock bottom. And I told everybody I knew. And once the site was nice. It was a professional site for what I was looking for. And so that was nice, and that's where I started. So I started telling everybody I knew. Literally passing out cards to every single person I would see locally, and just telling people, I'm for real. If there's a price that you're getting online, let me know, and I'll beat it, and I'll deliver it. I'll meet you in person, face to face. I can have it within a day. And people started trusting me, and started calling me, and it just kept rolling and rolling. At first, I was barely surviving. But I was happy. I was loving life, man. Like, every day I enjoyed doing what I was doing. And it wasn't long. I found out I was going to be having a little girl, and she was due on the same day to a year to the day later after we lost our son. And she came 4 days early. So this was like 6 months after I had started the business. It was just rolling along. Found out we were going to have another child unexpectedly. And so I was nervous. I was working and just trying to do what I could, and she was born. Like I said, she came 4 days early. So my son, my tattoos, this is a prayer from my son's funeral. It was called "Don't Quit," and real motivational for me, because like I was ready to give up on life at the time, And then I got his name tattooed here, Tyson Cash.
That's a real ass tattoo right there.
And then the date that he passed, and just a memorial cross. But this motivates me every day. You know, like I could read this no matter how hard life gets, this motivates me every day. And the crazy thing is, like I had said, I turned to painkillers at the time to deal with pain. Well, now that I'm having another child, a little girl, I had to quit, you know, and it was very, very tough because I was addicted bad, which is also crazy because
props to you
know how
because
much
most people don't break that.
Oh, and it costs so much money just to be able to work, you know, because I was to the point where if I didn't have it, I was sick. So I'm spending like $200 a day at least just to get by. That's how bad it got. And I mean, I wasn't getting high like a lot of people do, like I did when I was younger. I was staying numb all the time. So small doses all day long. And normal people didn't know. Like even my friends and family had no idea. I was hiding it, you know. I was functioning like normal, but I knew, you know, and I could feel it big time. So it was time to quit. And I called everywhere to try to find a place because I couldn't do it myself. I mean, I tried, and I'm a strong person, but I mean, that addiction is so strong. I mean, you get so sick. You think, oh, it's just a couple days, you're going to be sick, like the flu. It's nothing like that, man. Like, you can't lay down.
I can't even imagine.
Like, you hurt so bad, there's nothing you can do. Like, laying down hurts. The wind blowing hurts. Like, I mean, it's insane. Every pain receptor in your body is on fire. So anyway, I called around. Couldn't find no place. I found this place in Wilkinsburg, and it was like hardcore. Like the woman's like, it's like a homeless shelter. She's like, you get a bed, and you're in there with like 3 other people that are going through withdrawal. She's like, I'll be honest with you. She said, if you can do it at your house, and then come in the next day to the doctor's, she said, let's do that. I said, okay, I'll try it. You know, man, I was so sick. And the next day, I ended up actually having to go to the hospital because my blood pressure, it was so high. It was like 200 over, like 120 or something. It was insane. Like, I thought I was going to die. My head was pounding. My heart rate was 120 beats a minute at rest. Like, that's how high it got. That's because of the withdrawal. And so they gave me some, like, blood pressure medication, and they gave me, I think it was a Subutex in the hospital. And it was like, automatically, I felt totally normal. Like I went from being so sick to feeling like it never happened. And I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. And so the next day I went to the doctor, and I walked in. It was like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. Only place that would take me, because I called around, every place was booked. And I sit down, I'm filling out the paperwork, and I look up, and this exact prayer was right in front of me on the window. Like, it was the only other place I ever seen it. It gave me chills. Like, just to think about it. And I was like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. I know this is going to work out. I'm going to make it. And I did. You know, it was insane. So I had to go through the process. But, you know, I made it off the opiates and the Suboxone. I tried Kratom, which actually worked really well. But it wasn't enough for me to get off totally because my dose was so high. Now, I've seen people use it and get off. Well, you can go from shooting, you know, heroin to having no withdrawal. But you got to be committed because it doesn't give you the high. So you know, if you're still craving that feeling, you're not going to get that. You got to be really headstrong to use Kratom. I don't know if it's safe, but it works. It's like a natural Suboxone.
I heard of Kratom.
Yeah.
Don't know much about it though.
I was really impressed with it. Anyway, so I got off, and things started moving forward. My daughter was born. And it was the happiest I ever was, and I actually got to stay home and raise her while I built my business from the home, you know. So I'm like working on my website. I got my daughter in my arms, you know, all day long. I'm taking care of her, and then in the evenings I would run deliveries locally to everybody that wanted stuff around town. And I did that for probably about a year and a half, 2 years, and then I was like, it's time. I got to get a storefront because a lot of people have heard about me, but they don't want to. I don't want them to come into the house, and they don't want to come to the house.
Next step.
And that's when I got the store. So we've had the store now for like 3.5 years, and it's gotten so much better since. I mean, we're still growing. I mean, there's a lot of people that still don't know about us. But, you know, the thing about us that makes us different is that I love what I do, and I'm genuine. I truly want to help people.
Right.
Because I feel like this.
You don't strike me as the normal scummy supplement salesman.
Exactly. And that's in this industry.
That's plagued the industry.
Oh, it's so bad.
And that's the only reason why I drove all the way out here to see you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's the difference. I love what I do, and I truly want to help people because I feel like this saved my life. Fitness in general. If I didn't have weight training, if my dad didn't get me into lifting weights when I was young, like 12 years old, I probably wouldn't be here.
It's the backbone.
Because I have that addictive personality, and drug addicts, they have that personality. And that's, I've had so many people in recovery that are great lifters because they have that mentality. And you like to feel good. Who doesn't, you know?
Right.
So for me, if I didn't have this, I know I would have been all the way in on the other side. You know what I mean? And I'd done a lot of things, you know, to get by illegally and stuff when I was younger, and I had to do what I had to do to survive when I was on my own, you know. And I even, like I was telling you, I had even fought for money a few times. And I'll show you a video before you leave.
Maybe you can give me that and we'll play that.
I don't know if you'll be able to play it on the camera because it's from the old flip phones. It's not the best quality, but you can see it. I'll show you at least. Whatever you think. If you think you can make it work, that'd be cool. But yeah, it's not very good quality. I was in the projects actually, and it was a guy, a friend of mine was selling drugs to this guy, and he was supposed to be the toughest guy in the area. And my buddy's like, well, I know somebody that'll come out here and fight you right now for money, you know. And he's like, well, bring him out. You know, this guy's like 6'4", like 270 some pounds, and I was probably like 205 at the time. But I was, you know, quicker. You know, I was training for fighting and stuff. I was into jiu-jitsu and all that. So I went out there. We put on gloves, put in a mouthpiece. We told each other's names. We tapped gloves. We got in a circle and we fought. It was like 50-some seconds, and I knocked him out. And it was actually cool. He was real nice. And we got the money. I think I made like $50 out of that fight. I did that 2 times. It was only twice. Yeah.
Versus a $200 medical bill.
I know. I wasn't thinking, you know, at the time, but that was right when I was getting ready to start the business, and I was just really. I think I had just quit that job, and I was just starting the business, and I was really hurting for money.
That's a funny bar story.
Yeah,
right
man.
there.
It was crazy. And the video is pretty wild. He was trying to take my head off. Like, this guy was trying to hurt me. Well, I didn't know him at all. I was a little nervous going out there because I had no idea what this guy looked like. And I knew he was big, but I didn't know, like, you know, he had a little belly on him and stuff, and he was a little slow. It was just a matter of time. But if he would have caught me.
Yeah, but all that weight on that punch.
Yeah, he was trying to take my head off. But, yeah, so it's pretty wild. But, you know, I love what I do every day, and we just try to help people the best we can. Like, I get a lot of people. They're trying to get off of medication, you know, trying to get back in shape, trying to lose weight. We do contest prep.
Yeah, do you do coaching?
Yeah, we do. Mostly locally. We do NPC prep coaching, and I work with Maud Giacchetti, the guy that I introduced you to down there. He's the guy that got me into bodybuilding, which played a big role in my life as far as, you know, keeping me on that right track. Because I met him, I was probably about 14 the first time I seen him. And back then, man, he was built better than anybody I've ever seen in person. Like, it's just ridiculous. And I remember thinking, man, I'd like to look like that one day, you know. And, you know, over the years we became friends, and he saw me when I was 17, and he said, you ever think about competing? And I was like that kid that kind of kept to myself. Like, I had, like I said, a little negative, a little negative attitude, you know. I was a fighter and stuff. Like, I wasn't into, like, getting into posing shorts and going on stage, you know. But I was like, you know, I worked hard for what I had done. And he said, you ever think about it? I said, no, I never really did. And he said, well, I can help you if you want to. I said, all right, well, I'll try it. And that was the hardest thing at the time, 17 years old, to go up on stage at the NPC Pittsburgh and go out there in posing trunks for me. But it built my confidence so much, you know. And I did it again when I was 19. I think I got 5th the first time and 4th the second time. I thought I was going to win the second one. I thought it was 1st or 2nd. But you know how that goes sometimes, especially in the teenage. I wasn't really lean. I didn't know how to diet that well back then, you know. I was just learning, and but it was fun. Definitely a learning experience. And that's what got me into bodybuilding and stuff. And a lot of the best coaches have never even competed, you know, in the bodybuilding industry. I'm more into, like, the chemical enhancement, performance enhancement. I really love reading about that stuff, like chemistry and biology.
Experimenting and
figuring
it out yourself.
I really enjoy that. And I'm not really, I'm not an abuser because of my past with the drugs. Like, it makes me more conservative when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs, if that makes sense. Because for a while there, I was like paranoid. Like, I mean, I was like afraid to take a Tylenol, you know, because mentally
anything would stimulate that again.
Yeah, that, and I had a really bad experience with mushrooms right around that time that actually changed my life. Like, I went through. When I was like younger, man, I would do anything, and I was on the path then probably to die, and mushrooms changed my life at that time. I was about 17, and I ate too many, and I went into convulsions. My eyes rolled back. I was 7 hours tripping by myself, like insane, man. I thought I was going to die. But it saved my life because I told you I hadn't gotten addicted when I was younger, and that was why. Because I was doing all kinds of drugs, different drugs every day, and I would have probably gotten addicted to Oxycontin because a lot of my friends did, but that changed me. When that happened, I actually quit smoking weed. That's how I got the job with the chip company, because I had to pass a hair test and everything. I was a driver. I couldn't do drugs. And had that not happened, I wouldn't have got that job, you know? So it was crazy how things have happened in my life.
Yeah.
It was like it was meant to be.
Right.
And I still feel like that's happening, you know, like my girlfriend
that prayer
now.
Being on that wall, like that's some.
It's like a sign, you
right.
know? And you know, my girlfriend now, she's super supportive. You know, my daughter's mother, and you know, we're not together, but we get along very well for my daughter. And my girlfriend's amazing as far as, you know, helping me with my daughter, and just, I mean, I feel like I'm so blessed that I have to give back to other people. Like, I'm truly appreciative for every single day that I'm healthy and alive, you know, especially because of all the things I've done. I feel like, you know, I could have lost all that, you know, and never even realized what was there. And there's so many other people that are going through that now that don't realize how many good days they have in front of them, that they could end their life, you know,
right.
and they don't even know it. So that's why I do what I do, and it just makes me feel good, you know, to help other people. And we've had girls that have competed that never thought they would ever compete that end up winning. Like, we had a girl win the NPC Pittsburgh, her class. We had a girl win the NPC Mid-Atlantic, her class, and the overall. We've had girls place like second, third, you know, really good. Actually, my girlfriend, she never thought she was going to compete last year. She competed for the first time. She got 5th place, and it was like, I mean, she was only training for a year, and she did really well. This year, she's really prepared, and I'm excited to see how she'll do.
And she looks good.
Yeah, she's doing really well. That's only 2 years of training under her belt.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, she's my training partner, and she's the best training partner I've ever had. She pushes harder than a lot of the guys that I've trained with, just mentally.
Yeah, that's like my girlfriend.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, like, you put her in the squat rack,
they just go.
She's doing that extra 2 reps that
they don't
everyone
quit.
would rack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter how much you lift, it's how hard you push yourself.
Exactly.
And that's what makes the difference. Yeah.
Self-made, started from the bottom, over a drug addiction,
Oh, yeah.
and super chill. What's not more to like right here?
Yeah.
Not a narcissistic asshole.
Yeah, I never want to be that way either. I mean, I'm not a greedy person, and I'm happy with what I have. Honestly, my goal to do better is for my daughter to have a good life in the future, but also for my employees. You know, you met Ben, and I want to be able to provide him with a career where he can do what he loves for a living and actually provide for a family, you know, and so on. So it's more about taking care of, you know, those that help me take care of my family, you know what I mean? So we all work together. It's like we're pretty tight, and you know, we're trying to help support each other, and we want to grow and eventually provide other jobs too. So that's kind of what it's about now, and we've been working on the website. We started the forum.
Oh yeah, go into the forum, because I will be on the forum.
Yeah, anaboliccartel.com. Russo has his own section on there, and you can go and interact with him or interact with Ben and myself, and you can pretty much ask anything. I mean, nothing's off limits. Whatever's on your mind, you can get an answer for there.
So if you have a specific SARM, steroid, anything of that nature question, it'd probably be better to address it in that form versus just asking some random person on the internet.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents on that.
Plus, we got professionals coming on. The guys that we have on the podcast, Anabolic Cartel Podcast, they're going to be on the forums. We'll actually have a section where you can ask questions prior to the recording, so we can actually ask your questions to them as well. We had John Meadows on. Jeff
For those
Poland.
who don't know John Meadows,
yeah, he's probably one of the
I really like John Meadows.
most honest guys in the industry, one of the hardest working guys in the industry, and he's been around for years
Incredible
and years.
physique back in the day.
And he doesn't bullshit. I mean, he tells it like it is.
Even in person, he was straight up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I really like any of his videos and like podcasts and stuff. I always enjoy them. We haven't even released it yet. We're actually going to release it this week, the episode with John.
Yeah, I'll be sure to watch it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah.
That sounds good.